Hey, Wendy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Wendy, tell folks a little bit about you, and then I'm going to drop you into the first hypothetical scenario.
I'm in Greenville, South Carolina,
Oh,
and
cool.
I just celebrated my 20th year as a business owner. I've been a fractional CMO, marketing director for since February of 2005, and I work with clients all over the U.S. with planning, strategy. My model may be a little bit different than others as a lot of clients need execution help too. So I have a
Mhm.
team that will help execute if they
Hmm.
don't have a team on site.
All right. So here's my first scenario then. Uh, if you're like most people in this profession these days, most of your clients are at least somewhat virtual. Like you don't have to go to an office at the
Right.
client side all the time. But for this scenario, they're only 5 minutes from your home. So it's
Okay.
brand new client, brand new project, new engagement, new everything. And so you, on the first day on a Monday, you're actually going to walk in 9 o'clock, and it's day one of this client. Okay. When you walk in day one, what's the dream scenario you'd be walking into? And what's the nightmare scenario you'd be walking into?
Um, the dream scenario would be just to talk to one person, maybe the CEO, and have them say, over the weekend, I thought about these things are really the important things. We've already had our onboarding back and forth. We've talked. Um, but these are the three things that I need help with. And then they're open to me asking them all kinds of questions. And then I can start working on a plan to help with that. The nightmare scenario is what has happened this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked into a new local client and there were 7 people sitting around the table. And some of them have never worked on marketing. The CEO just thought everybody should be there. So there was just a lot of confusion and craziness, and we didn't really make progress that first hour.
Okay. All right. And Zach, hi.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Are you near South Carolina? Is that why you were making that noise?
Yeah, sorry. I'm in Charleston. My wife's from
Ah,
Greenville, so we go up there all the time. Yeah.
great.
There you go. And I'm near Greensboro, North Carolina.
Oh,
So we're all
sweet.
kind of
We're all
in the same part of
close.
the country today.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare, given
Yeah.
that everybody except me is random. And
Awesome.
as in, like they pick their own time slots and stuff. So to show up, I don't know. It's only I think happened once before. We had guests. They were both fractional CMOs, of course. They're both in the oil and gas sector. They're both lived in Houston, and they both lived about a mile from each other. And now they have met in real life and have actually like done some work.
That's
So, but
awesome.
now, I mean, the odds of that happening when 350 guests pick their own time slots is pretty small. Okay, so Zach, tell folks a little bit about you, and then I want you to tell me about your dream scenario and nightmare scenario walking in on day one.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. We're celebrating our 10th year as our agency Hook
Oh,
Lead. We specialize in working with software companies, so SaaS companies. I'm
right.
also a fractional CMO, again for SaaS. So just like Wendy said, we come in, we do the strategy, and depending on the situation, depending on the client, what they have available, we can work with their internal team. We can help them hire an internal team, or we can outsource to to their agency or our agency, whatever fits the scenario best for them.
What's your dream scenario walking in on day one, or your nightmare?
Yeah. So dream scenario and nightmare scenario. I would say if I walk in, I would like to have maybe 2 or 3 people there, no more than that. I wouldn't want a terribly crowded room, but
Right.
I would want a few of the people. For example, I would want the CEO. I would want to know kind of what the problems are. I'd like somebody from sales, and if there's anybody internally that, whether or not they're a marketing person, usually the people we work with, there's some kind of
Mm-hmm.
person in there that handles some part of marketing, whether if they're a marketing person or not. I'd want those people in the room because what I want to do is I want to uncover really where the opportunities, where the funnel's broken, and really where those gaps are, so we can kind of prioritize the quick wins as we roll out the 90-day nightmare scenario. Is going to be a lot like what Wendy said. Too many cooks in the kitchen. 2 or 3 is fine if they're know their stuff, they know what they need, they know what they want, they're engaged. If you got a room full of people, it's too many cooks, you got too many opinions, it's hard to make
Right.
progress.
All right. So, uh, it's going to be a long day for you two in our hypothetical scenarios. As we're going to spend the first part of the day is with the client, and then we're going to like go to a big hotel downtown.
Sweet.
Yeah. But let's jump ahead a little bit into the future. It's about 3 months in, and Zack, we'll start with you. You're walking down the hall in this client facility, and someone on the leadership team or board like stops and says, "Hey, Zack, I was just thinking about you last night. Right? I was part of the decision to bring you in, and we understood the value prop, what you were going to do while you were here and stuff. But I got to tell you, like, it was only now about 3 months in and watching you that I had like the real aha moment for like the real benefit of having you here. What's that aha moment?"
Yeah, that aha moment actually just experienced this in Q1 of this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just having that leadership. It's given them the constant direction of, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And what is the impact that it's going to have? Always keep giving people or giving the clients, just keeping them on page as far as what's going on and just the overall plan, where we're at, what's coming next, and the impact that it's going to have, especially on the KPIs. That's a big deal. Most of the time when I work with people, we're working with early to growth stage SaaS companies. So a lot of the times they have a lot of momentum that they may or may not be aware of, but they really just don't know what to do. They might have tried an agent, a SEO agency here or there, but just having someone that has a plan, that understands their business, understands their industry, and is willing to hold their hand and take them along to everything that needs to be done. And again, just explaining the why behind it to the whole team so that we all are rowing in the same direction.
All right. And Wendi, how about you? 3 months in, what's sort of the aha moment where it finally clicks for somebody, like the real value of having you or having a fractional CMO there?
So I think most of the time we actually see you or we hear from you and we're seeing things starting to move. I would say 90% of the people that I end up working with have been burned by another agency,
Right.
and they had somebody show up, sell, and disappear, charge them a lot of money, and would only show up when someone said, "We need to see what's going on." So having that ongoing conversation, just building that relationship and saying, "Here's where we are. Here's what's coming next. Look how this did," where they almost feel like they've got the inside scoop of what's going on with the marketing and just building that relationship. I feel like that's the aha moment of, hey, things are really starting to move now, and it didn't happen
Right.
overnight, but we're making progress and we trust you.
Right. Cool. Okay. So you already had prior commitments on day one. So you can only spend the first half of the day here. And now we need to move. So you drive on down to a big convention in a big hotel downtown. And you're on stage because you're one of the speakers today. And you're speaking to an audience of about 250 people. Every single one of them came out of corporate yesterday and started being fractional CMOs today. That's how crazy their life is right now. So I'm going to, over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you 3 statements or the beginning of 3 sentences as you
Okay.
make your way through that speech. You finish the sentence. Take as long or as many words as you need to finish the thought. It's not a one-word answer, but go ahead and finish the thought. So you're starting off and basically you say, look, I can tell you as a fractional CMO starting out, you guys, the thing you're going to be most surprised by is
How much work there is to be done. Um, Usually clients don't have issues with just one thing, and we know that marketing affects a lot of things in the business. And if you're doing a really good job, you won't run out of things to work on with the client.
oh, okay, right on. That's easy. And Zach, how about you? If you're talking to that same audience, a brand new just out of the oven, fractional CMOs, right? The thing that you can tell them, like, look, I've been at this game for 10 plus years now. The thing you're going to be most shocked by getting started is what?
I would say not so much shock, but something that you're going to need is you're going to need to plan out your systems. You don't want to be winging it every time that you go into a client. Obviously, everything's going to be unique for that client, but the systems that we install should be consistent based on, proof results and just real world testing.
Okay. And then Zach, finishing up on another thought. Okay. So you're talking to them and you say, the other thing is that you're going to find is that most clients just don't understand
Their KPIs. As odd as it sounds, I work with technology companies. They just get busy. So, sometimes things aren't tracked. A lot of the times things are tracked, but nobody is looking at it or they don't understand how to look at it. So, I'm surprised by the amount of CEOs and just leadership in software companies and SaaS companies that don't know important KPIs like the conversion rate of different channels, the CPA of different channels. Yet they're planning $1 million budgets, marketing budgets to spend all these different places without basing those decisions on data.
Wendi, how about you? Most
Um,
clients just don't understand what?
that every tool that they get an email about isn't something that they should pursue. So maybe forward that to me and let me take a look at it and see. And there may be some new things that we need to do, but constantly changing direction and incorporating new things doesn't make things work better or faster.
Right. Busy isn't efficient.
Right.
Okay. And then finally, as we wind down our speech, you guys are a little bit long-winded. And so some intern is trying to signal you to get off the stage. Right? It's like the Oscars. They're even going to bring up the music. Like, get off the stage. But you're there like, by God, they're trying to get me off the stage. But I'm going to tell you one more thing before I leave. The most important lesson I can leave you with about getting new clients is what, Wendi?
Two quick things. One is let everybody know what you're doing. Just because you put something on LinkedIn doesn't mean everybody you know knows that you've become a fractional CMO. So reach out and spend that time and communicate that. And two, always think about your personal branding. So if someone Googles you, what are they going to find? And if you don't like what you see or you feel like there needs to be more, then you need to do something about it.
And Zack, you're telling this audience of brand new fractional CMOs, you want to make sure that they understand at least one fundamental about getting clients. And that fundamental would be what?
I would say networking and delivering value before you try to sell anything. Yeah, building the network of your target audience. If your LinkedIn is filled with, old colleagues, it's not going to get you very far, but build that network of your target audience and deliver value to that network. Don't come out guns blazing, trying to sell and all that kind of stuff. Deliver value, earn your way, earn their trust.
All right. Excellent. Okay. So you finally got off stage. They finally got you off stage. And Zack, you're now out on the floor of the conference. There's booths out there. There's a lot of people milling around. You've even got some meetings set up for prospective clients. As you're talking to companies that are possible future clients, what in the conversations you have with them do they tend to overrate and underrate about marketing or about fractional CMOs? What do they underrate and what do they overrate?
Overrate is definitely leads. That's easily the first place to say, especially if you're a B2B SaaS, like, hey, we need more leads. We need more leads. Oftentimes that's the case, but that's just one piece of the whole puzzle, especially in a SaaS. Once you get a lead, especially in B2B SaaS, there's so many things that happen afterwards before you get a sale and there's so many, opportunities for it to break down. Right. So that's what I would say is, it's not just lead volume, it's lead quality. It's can you close the leads, all that kind of stuff.
What do they underrate?
I would say they underrate the actual strategy. It seems, I think they can view it as counterintuitive to start with, who is the audience, persona research, what makes them tick, what's their goals, challenges, pain points before we start deploying tactics. But the tactics are not effective if we don't understand how our audience, what's important to them and what makes them tick.
Right. And Wendi, how about you? What do you think or what do you find that your prospective clients, when they talk to you about marketing or fractional CMO, ing, I know that's not a word. Uh, what do they tend to overrate and what do they tend to underrate?
I agree with Zach. I mean, talking about leads and also wanting to push Google Ads, Google Ads. I mean, we know Google Ads can be effective, but they can also be very complicated. And just saying this is what we need. Um, with that, and most of them don't even understand everything that goes on to have effective
Right.
Google Ads. And then underrated, I think just staying on track and once the strategy is set, not changing direction, giving it some time and making sure you're actually following the plan, executing the plan, and not getting impatient where you want to see change too quickly.
I'm going to tell both you guys, I like relentlessly test these questions and I test everything about them that I think of. And two things that have emerged in this latest series. Questions tend to change every 25 episodes or so. Is that no matter which order I ask people, whether I say underrate versus overrate or overrate versus underrate, virtually everybody starts with the overrate. Not sure why, it just is. And secondly, just about everybody when they describe, and this says a lot about like challenges in marketing and and human nature, is that almost everything that everyone has ever answered about what companies underrate, the exact same answer could have been given 100 years ago.
I believe that.
Have a strategy, have a plan, talk to your customers, see what they want. It's all like all of the advice for underrated is the most fundamental parts, and I guess it's underrated and therefore always a good answer because everyone still needs to be reminded.
Yeah.
People are human, right? They might not need to be told, but we all need to be reminded.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wendi, you're talking to prospective clients, okay? Still, what's like a red flag, and what's a green flag? As you're talking to a prospective client, you're like, I don't know if these guys should even be talking to any fractional CMO, never mind me. Or like, oh my God, I love it when people tell me that.
I think a green flag
Yeah.
is someone who says, this is exactly what I've needed. And I've tried having a couple of people on my staff to do this, or I've hired a big agency and it didn't work. And so I see the value and I'm ready to go. Just having that positive attitude, that's a green flag. A red flag is when a CEO copies 6 people on an email every time they have an idea. And there's just confusion. And a lot of these examples are with one client that I keep thinking
Yeah.
about that I had. Um,
We all
then
have
there's all
that
these
one
other
client.
emails of, well, who's supposed to work on this? Or is this Wendi? Or what's going on? Just
Right.
trying to keep that communication streamlined is, if they can't do that, that's a huge red flag. And I can pick up on that in conversations, talking to them before we even decide if we're going to work together or not. Just if they keep mentioning other people and how they want everybody involved. And
Right.
sometimes you just can't do that to get things done. So,
And Zach, how about you? What's a red flag and what's a green flag when you're talking to a prospect?
Green flag for me is that they're open-minded and they're willing to, for lack of a better word, accept my recommendations and try them out. A red flag is a complete opposite. Somebody that, just wants to drive because, you're hiring me for a reason, the experience, the leadership, the systems. And if you're trying to drive everything, it's not going to be effective. Being open-minded, listening, and, just letting us do our job, really.
Yeah. Okay. So finally, you guys are in the elevator, right? You're the only two people in the elevator. The only two things you know about it. The only thing you know about each other is that you reach fractional CMOs. You do fractional CMO kind of work, right? You're in the elevator to get to the parking garage, and like I said, you don't know each other except for profession or domain. And so we'll start with Zach. Zach, you turn to Wendi and you say, "Hey, we don't know each other, but since I've got you here, let me ask you this." And then what do you ask another randomly put in the same elevator with you fractional CMO?
Yeah, I guess I just want to learn about kind of the journey, where they started, where they are, and most importantly, what they learned along the way. So if I can learn any shortcuts or anything like that, that's what I've noticed about just my career and marketing in general. It's be a sponge, just learn as much as you can. You don't know what you don't know, and you're never going to know it all. So any knowledge I can unlock from them, from their experience, is what I'd be going after.
Wendi, do you have a shortcut or tip?
oh, for him, I would say that I spend a lot of time doing education. I mean, even though I've been doing this for a long time with
Mm-hmm.
digital and AI, there's always new things to learn. So I try to spend a couple hours a week doing webinars or reading. So I think it's ongoing education.
Okay.
And I think you just have to pick where you feel like you need to know more and go find some resources and find some friends that will share some links with you.
And Wendi,
Cool.
how about you? What question for Zach?
Um, do you feel like things are getting crazier in the marketing world just because of AI and digital, or do you feel like things are still kind of the same? I feel like there's so many other ways that we can market now, and do you feel like that's made things more hectic for yourself when trying to figure out what to recommend to clients or not?
Yeah, it's definitely changing. AI is changing a lot of stuff, as well as just the rising costs of things.
Right.
So it's Google is getting more and more expensive year over year over year over year. They're putting AI into search now, so SEO traffic is going away. So I've been placing a lot of focus on building up other channels to insulate from that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's really just embracing the change and figuring out how to navigate through it without getting left in the dust or
Right.
blowing a bunch of money.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So, guys, thanks so much for this. Before I let you go, Zach, who should be reaching out to you these days, and what's the best way to get to you?
Yeah, so any kind of leadership at a startup or growing growth mode SaaS company, CEOs, things like that, founders, co-founders, that's who we work with. That's who we help. It's our tribe. And they can
And
hit me up on LinkedIn. That's a good place.
Wendy, how about you? Who should be
Um,
contacting you these days?
I work mainly with professional services firms, kind of medium size, and you can always find me on LinkedIn and my email, Wendi@marketmomentum.biz, and that's Wendy with an I at the end.
All right, guys, like this has been fantastic. Thanks very much. I love these answers. I loved them. Loved them. All right. So
Thank
thanks.
you.
Goodbye, Wendy. Goodbye, Zach. Goodbye, everyone watching this, and we'll see you next time. Adios.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.